we go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to FMA Discussion. This is episode 148, and tonight we have the honor of having Tuhon Rico here. And I want you guys to stay tuned. It's going to be a great discussion. We're going to go over his journey, and then we're going to go over kind of what he's doing now and everything in between. So pick up a chair, stick around, and we're going to get into it. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I've been watching your stuff for a while, and I really enjoy you interviewing everybody. I learn a lot by watching and listening to other people. You know, it's kind of cool to listen to other perspectives, and I'm so open about learning that it's great to hear other masters and other people present their way. So thank you for being a benefactor, helping us.
Oh, no, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it's been a fun journey so far, you know, so, and it's picking up momentum and what have you. It was a slow start like anything else, but, you know, but we've been plugging along and, you know, so, you know, folks, if you're watching, tell us where you're watching from. Yay, Guru Tom. So it's funny that people are going to be, we met, boy, I think more and more I'm thinking about it, I think it was the 2003 Sama.
Yeah, it's 2003.
Yeah, and the reason why I think that is because it was the Atienzas were invited, and at that time I was both of them, and I remember that being 2003, and you were there helping Tuhon Ray Dianaldo.
Yeah, he was my original Kali instructor. Yes.
So and I just remember you being very nice, going around helping people, and you were kind of going through, you know, all that. So that was that's what stood out. So. Yeah, gosh, that was.
Man, that's a long time ago, and you still remember that I was being nice to people. That's thank you. That's great.
No, yeah, no, that's what stood out. I definitely remember that. Like you were very gracious, very helping, you know, very helpful to people who maybe weren't doing it, and yeah, no, definitely that stood out, and you because I just remember, man, remember the dust, remember the.
Oh, that was crazy. That was crazy.
It was awful.
I had it, my ears, I had it everywhere, but it was terrible.
Oh, I remember like the Saturday night I'll never get it, taking a shower and just like dirt coming just out of everywhere. I'm just like, what? Yeah, that was interesting. Wow. But yeah, so that's 18, 19 years ago. So obviously a lot
going on since then.
Yeah. So, So all right, let's jump into it. What was your what got you into FMA? What was your first when and where your first experience?
Well, my first experience, can I tell you my martial arts experience first?
Oh, sure, please do.
All right, so I was a kid. I got bullied when I was a kid. I was like, I think I was a fifth grader. This guy was beating me up every day, man. So I lived I'm from Puerto Rico. So I lived in Carolina, Puerto Rico. And then but one of my friends told me, hey, there's a Chinese kickboxing. And so I went over there. They used to spar all the time and a lot of flexibility. And I started studying there because I got tired of getting beat up. So, you know, I actually excelled at it, but didn't stay with it because I was a professional ball player when I got out of high school. So I went to high school to play baseball. So I moved to the States. And I've always wanted to do martial arts, man. In 1981, 82, I'm a sophomore in high school. And one of my buddies tells me, hey, man, there's some guys from Brazil. They're doing some jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. I live 15 minutes from the original garage. They used to do their fights and stuff. And but I was so focused on baseball, it wasn't my time. So in 1994, I lived in Venezuela when I was a baseball scout for the White Sox. I scouted for 10 years. I played.
Oh wow.
Huh?
I said, oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. I played professionally 6 years with the Yankees and the Mets and the minors. And then I played 1 year independent ball. And then I went to Venezuela to play 2 years there. I managed. And then I was a baseball scout for 10 years. And now, when I was there, I got robbed at gunpoint. Never forget. It was around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, middle of the road. I mean, it was a guy with a revolver. He was about 5'4". I still remember his eyes. He had green eyes. Never forget it. They robbed from me. A guy robbed from me. But the weird thing about this, and I still don't get it, that I reacted to it 3 days later. At the moment, I was like in a bubble. I didn't feel nervous. I didn't feel afraid. I can't explain it. 3 days later, I kind of broke down. I'm thinking this guy could have killed me, you know? So that began my journey in finding out what to study. I said, I need to learn to defend myself because I was in good shape. I was strong, but I couldn't throw a punch for the life of me. So I began to look into, that's when the Steven Seagal stuff, hype, and, the jiu-jitsu thing. So I looked into a karate guy and didn't like it only because I know there's a lot of bonkai, there's a lot of application to the katas, but this guy was only teaching me katas, and I needed to learn self-defense, so he was not telling me the application. And that bugged me. It's like, don't make me waste time, dude. I want to learn how to. I almost got killed. Hello,
Yeah. So, I don't have time for.
Yeah. I mean, I can learn the katas. Just teach me what they are. And then I started learning Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, which is more like a mixture of stand-up jiu-jitsu with some judo throws and very basic ground stuff, but not really any rolling. It just finishes, arm bar and whatever, But then I got hooked up with Aiki Jitsu Te, which is Professor Grandmaster Lou Ferret out of New York. And I reached the level of Shihan under him. And because I hurt my hip, that's another story. I got a hip replaced 5 years ago. So I started studying with him. Then 3 years later, 1999, I began to study with Ray Dionaldo.
How'd you meet him?
Huh?
How'd you meet him?
Okay, so there's a guy named Gary. Gary was his Aikido Jiu-Jitsu and Aikido training partner. He was the guy who trained in Aikido and Aikido Jiu-Jitsu at the school, and he knew that I liked to train and learn different things, so he would get me a tape of Filipino martial arts, and I saw Maranese, Professor Remy Preces, and I was like, oh, snap, that's what I want. Then I saw a video of Ray teaching a seminar in Tallahassee. So what I would do, I started watching the videos, and I kind of have quasi, more or less, I can remember things. I see it and I can remember. So I start practicing with Gary some of the disarms. So I called him, and he was living in Auburndale at the time, Winter Haven. Back in the day when Winter Haven, Florida, was like Winter Haven. There's nothing going on except just, nothing. So he told me how much he charged per hour. And at the time says, I'll wait. Okay. Then he moved to Tampa. And I had a seminar with one of his Lacan Gurus at the time, who was a Hapkido instructor. Really amazing guy. Very nice to me. I learned to be nice from him because he will always help me when I needed help. So, he was very, very pivotal. Rick D'Aguila was extremely nice. And he took me in when I started training with Ray. He was, and he helped me. So he told me, hey, Ray, he was doing a Hapkido seminar. And I watched him move, and I'm going like, dude, I know Hapkido. You're not doing Hapkido. And he goes, you're mixing it. And he goes, yeah, I do Filipino martial arts. So the blend was there. And I said, man, I called him, but I didn't really go to see him. He goes, he just moved to Tampa. So I called Ray. He didn't want to teach at the time. Going through some issues personally. And, I said, man, just let me pay you for the month. And, I paid him for the month. And then we became friends. At that time, we became friends, and we ended up training every day. I mean, every day. I spent my whole traveling with him, training one-on-one with him. And then I became a Lacan Guru, which at the time was the highest rank in his system. Don't go to the website because I'm not there anymore. But yes, I am a Lacan Guru on the Ray. I got the videos to prove it. And that was a great experience. The methodology he used to teach me how to flow, sensitivity, and energy, I'm very grateful for the way he taught me, because he always taught me the principles and the concepts behind what he was teaching. Not necessarily, the fight itself, because the drills are helping you develop the flow, sensitivity, and the concepts behind how to apply them. But one thing that I was so appreciative was that he made mention. He said, the more seminars you do, the more hands you touch, you'll be able to understand what I'm teaching you and adapt to anything you learn.
Okay. And
I don't know if that's still the methodology, but I was blessed to be in that first batch of guys. Ray Cole, Harold from North Carolina. And we were some guys, man, I'm telling you that were there with him that we really got the core stuff before it blew up and it got worldwide. So, I was blessed that way.
Yeah, right. And
Then,
folks, if you're watching, tell us where you're watching from. So, so basically, as far as people who maybe are not familiar with the system and all that, what basically was it mostly stick or a little everything you guys were doing or what?
we were doing a mixture of all kinds of stuff because the way he developed it, as I remember it, I don't know how he's doing it now, but the way I learned it, the way he taught it to me was there was a core. We used a Piccadilly Tertia 64 moves, and and then he will teach me. He will break them down. He will teach me all the concepts, principle, and then he developed subsystems. Dumont,
Okay.
Sarong, and he will do Karambit. I still remember at that time, very limited amount of people were doing Karambit. Tarani was doing Karambit.
I heard he was the first. Matter of fact, Ray told me he was the first.
Yes,
I didn't know.
was.
Yeah.
He was. And I remember hanging out with Ray one day in his house, and I was watching Tarani's video. And I said, man, this is some cool stuff. What is this? I never seen the Karambit until that day. And he goes, yeah, man, I wanted to teach that too. But what he did, he utilized some of CLAP principles, with a Karambit. So the fluidity was bridging from medium range to close range. So you got medium, we got largo, medio, corto, right? But then we have this really short range. And then we did the tactical baton. And we specialized. He taught it to me directly and then to Nate Hill and to some other people in which we can deploy and use the baton at really close quarters. And that's why now I'm using stick grappling, because I want to teach police officers to use the tactical baton in that grappling range that I learned standing up, but I could also apply it on the ground.
Which they desperately need, for the most part, those, that. But so then with wow, that's fascinating because I remember, back in the time frame we met at Sama 2003.
Correct.
That's when he started gaining popularity regarding the Karambit. That's when things started taking off. I distinctly kind of remember that time frame and him not overnight literally, but kind of blowing up. You know what I mean? Let
me tell you a little story about that. At the time, FCS didn't have templates. He taught me old school flow, complete sensitivity and fluidity, just like he did with Ray Cole and Harold and the original guys. The templates came about later because you have to systemize, you have to organize a little bit because, you have so many guys all over the world, so you follow a blueprint.
You gotta have a syllabus because, man, how that's so interesting you bring that up because where's your accountability going to come from? Like you better be putting things in place so everybody's doing kind of the same thing. So the bigger the system gets, sometimes.
For sure, that's the thing. So one of the guys that I also met, man, that was really amazing is Ernie Lake. Have you heard of Ernie Lake?
I've never spoken to him, but definitely know of him.
And Ernie Lake is one of Eno Santos' students, highly talented. He also he does Muay Thai, and he's a Lakanguro under Ray now, and he also under Jared. I think I forgot his last name.
Jared Hongi, PTA.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
But Ernie Lake, man, is probably one of the best kept secrets in FCS. This guy's so talented, and he can fight. He can fight, And I love training with him. He was very nice to me too. So. So the more you grow, when I learned, there were no, what you saw, the Sama, there were just no templates. It was just free flow.
No, I definitely didn't remember hearing a count system because I wouldn't know that because at the time with ASI, it was 3 of 9, 4 of 12. You had the transition drills.
Right.
And all that. So I definitely would have remembered the count, but through association with SAOC, I bet where the count came, So just because he became a Tuhon under SAOC, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. I think he's the 5th. I may be wrong, but for what I understand, he's the 5th Tuhon, and then Tuhon Grandmaster Felix Cortes that I am under now. He's the 1st, for what I understand. So if I'm wrong, please don't shoot me.
You could be. I thought it was the Cayenne brothers, Tom Kyer.
I think the Cayennes came before Ray.
Definitely. They were
Yeah,
definitely before
I
Ray.
met them. They're really cool.
Yeah, they
They're
were
really,
definitely because the reason why I know this is when the Seahawks went public, quote unquote, went public in Long Island. I attended one of their first seminars in Long Island, and they were there. Kyer was there, so they were definitely there
I
before. I
met
think.
Tom. I met
Yeah.
Tom already at Tuhon and the Cayennes brothers
Mhm.
when Ray took me the first time in 2001.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
right before September 11, I was there in the summer.
yeah.
And man, those guys were incredible.
No, the
You know,
Cayenne brothers were Ricardo and Raphael, and then the other thing is, I think Ray also was with Bo first, and the social from Bo
correct.
to okay,
Buji,
because
Buji,
Bo being in
I
Florida.
think he learned from Buji Martin and then Master Bo, and he was involved with Modern Arnis too. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the methodology that he used when I first came up with him, I mean, as you saw when we were demonstrating in 2003, it was all free flow. It was nothing really predetermined. You know, he taught us to just flow with him and energy and sensitivity, which I think is very important also to develop alongside the templates. You know, templates are a guide. So I learned, he taught me how to make my own templates, basically.
Mm.
You know, and when you pay attention to that time, Natatan Bobo, his son, Grandmaster, man, Grandmaster Chris Sayok, at the Samasamas, you know, you listen to the way they talk, and they're always speaking in codes, telling you how to do stuff. If you're really keen to it, you can learn a lot.
Yeah, what was going on in those tents was definitely not made for them. Was not made for the masses. For for the general public ears, that's for sure. Man, I just remember that weekend, man. Just it was hot, it was dusty, it just was, man.
Yeah,
And but he did great. And the other thing too, which is that I definitely, I actually remember some things he was doing, believe it or not. And you were standing there, of course, and he was coming there, and he would end up down by your legs and all that. I definitely, but he was closing, like you said, he was kind of closing from middle to
right.
close and then real close. Yeah.
Well, the whole idea was to fight at this range. Everyone here and here. Then you got medial range. Then you have the corto range, but then we want to be corto function there with angles.
Yeah.
And, but then I got together with Tuhon Felix Cortes. We're not related. We may be, but I don't know. And he came to one of the gatherings in 2000, I think 2002. And I saw him move. And his stuff is so functional. And I went like, man, this man can move, And then I didn't see him for a while. And then when I got to La Canguro, one of the prerequisites was to cross-train with people. Go and so you want to keep moving forward. And that's one thing that I'm grateful for, to go train with other people. And I had to, I got together with Tuhon Felix, and literally my whole thing changed. My whole mindset changed.
Yeah,
because
stuff, very dynamic. I've heard, and
every drill that you see is a drill for combat. It's a drill designed to work on the footwork, switches, targeting. So there's a lot of layers within his system that it could apply in standing up in a short range. And now I'm taking what he taught me, and he has given me the privilege to develop the curriculum for the grappling. Me and him. This is very unique when you have a grandmaster saying, "Hey, would you help me, work together to develop this? I like what you're doing," and I felt that was a great compliment and a great responsibility.
Yeah. Wow. So before you met Tuhon Felix there, were there any other systems that you kind of played around with, or you trained in or experienced within FMA?
Well, I like Dumog and Buno, but I never really trained directly with anybody. I took the experience that I learned from Ray and some of the guys we played with, and then I just learned from other teachers at a distance. I like the grappling arts, but I had a bad hip for a while. Bad sciatica, developed into a bad hip arthritis, and then I had to get my hip replaced 5 years ago. But I studied Aikido 9 years. And then I studied Aikido Jiu-Jitsu for a long time. And the Aikido Jiu-Jitsu that I was taught by Professor Lou Ferrer is a combination of the modern Chinese footwork, Tai Sabaki traditional, stuff, but it's very rough.
Okay.
It's more like fighting per se, rough and striking and things like that. So then I got into MMA. Before my hip surgery, for about 4 years, my son is 29 now, very talented. And I wanted to learn something new. So I lost 60 pounds because I gained a lot of weight due to my hip. So I said, I stopped doing seminars in Cali because, and this is the one thing that I want to recommend to people. I introduced FCS into Israel, Puerto Rico, at that time in Belgium, and then another representative came in later. I also taught in other places, and I introduced FCS in some of those places. But as my hip kept getting worse and I couldn't really do exercise and I couldn't represent the way I wanted to, I stopped because I felt that if somebody would have come in and challenged, I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to. So what I did, I retrieved myself from the whole thing. I lost the weight and I began to learn from scratch. So the first thing I did was I found this guy named Zach Klutner in Winter Haven for Central Florida MMA in Winter Haven. Man, this guy's talented. I remember when the first exercise we did was pummeling for 3 minutes, and I couldn't even last 3 minutes. He threw me around like I was a rag dog, man. And then after the class was done, and that was the first 3 minutes. He's 6'3" to like 270 and put all his weight on me, moving me around. And I thought I was pretty decent. And that was a wake-up call for me. I got in the car. I was so exhausted. And I literally told my wife, I said, if this guy wanted to kill me after 3 minutes, he could have. And that to me was my life change. That was my
alarm went off, huh?
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute. I can't even last a minute. Yeah. So I'm thinking I need to reevaluate where I'm going, what I'm doing. So me and my son will get up twice a week, 5 a.m, to take morning class and go spar and learn how to move, learn how to do basic things, wall, all that stuff. And then one day I was getting really frustrated because I'm not moving the way I used to. My hip is so jacked up and I'm older. So I'm thinking I'm wasting time. And then the teacher asked me, he says, well, why are you so frustrated? The guy, Zach, said, because I know how to do that with a knife and I can't even do it without it. And then he goes, well, what do you mean? And I showed him. He looked, oh my God, I didn't know you can do that stuff. Because one of the things that we need to do is empty the cup. And many times when people are established in a system, they refuse to empty their cup to learn all the things. Listen, man, just because I want to learn something, you have something to share, doesn't mean that what I'm doing is not valid. It's just that I want to learn. I want to, then I do my homework to put it together. So this guy took me in, me and my son, for almost 3 years, training with him all the time, doing privates. And I wanted to learn how to sprawl, basic thing. I couldn't do anything with my hip. I don't want to be in the bottom, so I want to be basic sprawls. Then I started, after my hip surgery, I went to a MMA class, and there was some new guys that are really young. I'm 50 years old, and they were slamming people. And I say, I don't think so.
It's a rough age to start getting into that game, man.
I'm not fighting in the ring. I just want to learn,
Yeah, but you got that young. Yeah.
I was sparring, and I looked terrible. I remember I'm supposed to be a master in Kali. I can't even punch.
Yeah. And you're around 20-something-year-olds who have big dreams ahead of them, and you're coming in at 50. Man, that's just not, man, that's a tough equation, man.
but when you do it and you earn their respect by doing it, and they see you struggle and you're learning and you're growing, and then you're able to have success because you have this whole line of experience and now you're learning to apply it. Although I was not a good MMA guy, I was learning their principles so I could learn how to counter it. You see?
Sure, sure.
I kept thinking, this guy's going to shoot on me. I got a knife. How would I sprawl to turn to the side?
How would you sprawl deploy, right? How would you get him from doing a double leg or single leg or, yeah, exactly. Or tackle or body lock or all that.
Simple things, stuff, right? So I went to the school after my surgery. I was really desperate to train. And 7 months after my surgery, I went to a jiu-jitsu school. And I met this guy, The teacher was Nick Recanati from Claremont, Florida, an amazing man, very talented. All his students are really cool people. And, they knew that I had some kind of experience, but I'm not a grappler. I knew a little bit because of the MMA, but not strictly jiu-jitsu, because you're not punching anymore. It's different. It's a different game altogether. So I struggle with the basics, plus I'm coming back from a hip surgery. So it's like trying to get my body, first, to get in shape, second, to deal with the movements. So it was a struggle. So let me tell you a little bit of a story that really kind of helped me. There's a guy named Jay Enoch. He's a competitor. He's a no-gi competitor, an amazing guy. He's like 27 years old now, 26, I think. But he was like 21, 22 when I met him. And my class, he's smaller, and I thought, I could do okay. Man, this guy ran circles around me. I go home, man. My ego is like so devastated. So I was like, the next day I go back to class. Oh, 2 days later. So Tuesday, it was a Thursday. So I go back to class, and I saw him, and I said, hey, can I be your training partner? Is that okay? I want to learn from you. But that day, the class was stand-up jiu-jitsu. Well, I'm experienced like 20 something years of that. So I'm watching the technique, simple Nikyo, simple thing. And he's looking, I'm looking. So he's a higher rank in jiu-jitsu. So I put out my hand, and at that time, that's not what he does. He's doing stand-up. He's doing ground. I do stand-up. So backwards. So I said, well, do your hand there, do your hand there. And then when I do the technique, I do it right away because that's what I'm used to doing. So he noticed that, wait a minute, I thought you were a white belt. Well, I am a white belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But I'm at 5th degree, 6th degree in Aikido jiu-jitsu. And he goes, man, then he told me this. It really opened my mind. He goes, wow, do you realize that with your experience and your background, you're coming into our world with your hands tied because you can't really do some of the stuff you're used to. You're learning the sport, which is limiting in some ways. He goes, imagine when you learn our ways and then you apply what you know.
Okay.
I was like, okay, there's a future here. So in that same day on the roll, I began to pay attention. And the guy grabbed me. He grabbed my hand, but the grip was not weapons-based grip. It was a jiu-jitsu-based grip. And immediately, because what he mentioned, now my mind is more open, I said, I could cut him. If I had a knife. So then I just, I'm thinking what I could do in certain positions now. I'm thinking now I need to learn these basic positions while they're teaching, appreciate what they do, roll and make sure that I put my time on the mat, bust it, do the right thing. So then I learn how to counter it. And then when I put a weapon, I know what to do without the weapon, and I know what to do with the weapon. And that's when the
different world, man.
Yeah.
It's for both, for the BJJ guys and all that. And we're gonna we got a bunch of people saying hello. GM Dan Medina, hey Jeremy, Go Tom Pena, Felix from Texas, Samuel and Paul. Hey guys, if you're watching, yes, tell us where you're watching from and hit that like button.
Yeah, 2 guys there that I know personally. Now, I don't know. Master Dan Medina, I don't know him personally, but I follow him a lot, much respect.
Yeah.
And I know Samuel for Hernandez.
Samuel. Okay.
Sorry, this guy's a high-level kickboxer, brother. Very talented. He lives in St. Pete now.
Okay. So when so at this time though, you're kind of still with you were Tuhon Felix at this point, correct?
Correct. I started studying with Tuhon Felix. He started putting his curriculum, Filipino Combatives, and we helped him develop the website. So if you go back to his website, FilipinoCombatives.com, I'm there, but I'm like 60 pounds heavier.
Okay. So, and just about what year did you start with him? About
10
what year?
10 years ago.
10 years ago. Okay. So 211. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, all right. And, so we're going to get, all right. So then.
I think it's a little earlier than that, if I remember. I think it's a little earlier than that.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I remember he was coming over to actually it's earlier than 2009. Okay,
oh wow.
Yeah, 2009.
Okay.
I was
Oh, so
doing
you've been with him a
FCS
while.
and I was learning for him.
Okay. Okay. Oh, you've been with him a while then. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna revisit the grappling part for sure and all that because I definitely want to cover. But what could you tell folks who maybe are not familiar with Tuhon Felix and his system? Like, like what's who maybe want to pursue it or get
Well,
into.
what I found with Tom Felix is that everything he does is functional for fight. You know, from the striking to the blocking, blocks are strikes, strikes are blocks. And one of the things that I really picked up from him that I love is switching. Everything we do, he does it on both sides. Normally, there's a strong side, the weak side, and many people they only work the right hand and then they don't do the left. And that's a problem. Like I know one system we're doing, in the right, but then we did another drill for the left from another system, so we can also work our left. But that doesn't happen with Tuhon Felix. Grandmaster Felix, what he does, everything he does has to be on both sides. Right. And then every drill you do, you have to do it clockwise, counterclockwise, straight, back, in every angle. You should be able to pull it off. But what I like about the fact is it's so functional that you can fight with it at any time. We have basic entries. We don't look for disarms per se because I believe the disarms is an outcome of a positive and of an entry and a positive exit. So I don't really look for them unless they're there. But I think we get in trouble when you're fixating on a disarm.
Yeah, agreed.
But his system, he's very talented and very underrated in my opinion. And it's kind of sad because if you only give this guy an opportunity to sit with him and talk about concepts, man, I learned a lot from the fighting concepts, that he develops within his system. So when you look at his 12 strikes template, 1 out of 12, you're thinking, it's just a template. But then one day he sits there, he starts explaining the principles behind it. And every time it's a different layer. And it's all functional for fighting. So it's a 12 strike, in this particular template, but you break it down in 3 move burst. So now you have 12, but in reality, you don't have 12. You have even numbers, and then you have odd numbers, and you can create your own carenza, your own template based on the format. So I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then I can go 12, 1, 6, 8, 9. And then we can play with the numbers. You can create your own flow. So these principles is what's allowing me now to blend what I've learned from all the systems that I've learned. And my base is catch wrestling for the top game, for neck cranks, for anything that is nasty. For the bottom, I'm using BJJ because they're known for the bottom game. And that's an area that I'm not good at. But with the stick, I'm looking to get up. But if I can't get up, I need to utilize the bottom game. And I need to learn the jiu-jitsu game in order to learn how to counter with a weapon. So I have to put myself in bad spots. Man, I went rolling today. It's like I was terrible. Not really, but I did okay.
Yeah, I still roll. It's demanding. I mean, it's depending on obviously who you're going with and what's being introduced, if you're at weapons and all that. It's but so with regards to Felix, so I mean, does he within his system, is it everything? I mean, knife, stick.
Yes, we do empty hand, pan and tukan. We do stick, knife, not so much soron per se, but more like stick, knife, swords.
Okay.
And everything you do with a stick is as if you're learning with a sword. He gives you the stick application, but more so the sword application, which is something many people don't know. The only thing he's a stick guy. And that's a little bit of disappointing because they're not really looking more into what he does. But one of the things that I am so impressed by is his footwork. He has an incredible, out of this world footwork. And he's older than me now. He's like, I think he's 56, but he moves like a kid, man. He's incredible. So that's what I like about it. I'm getting too old to do something that is not going to work in a real fighting application. I'm looking for something that is functioning to the point.
Where's he located now?
He's in Maryland.
It's still in Maryland. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We train together a lot. Either I will go up there, he comes down. And so I spend a lot of time learning from him.
No. And now he's got reps all over outside US too.
He does have some in Italy. He does have all over, but he's a stuntman,
Okay.
and so he's getting involved in the movie business. He just recently did a movie in Puerto Rico as a
Oh,
stunt.
no kidding. Okay. Okay.
So that's taking a little bit of priority. So in a way, he is more involved in that right now than
I said,
developing.
yeah, no, yeah, okay. I mean, I knew he had reps in the U.S. I mean, it sounds like somebody we should get on at some point. You know what I mean?
I think you should, man. He's very
Yeah.
talented. I mean, he has a
Yeah. Yeah.
really.
Wow. No, no. So then, all right. So now, are you primarily right now, as far as you concerned, as far as FMA is concerned, are you pretty much just with him doing his system now?
I'm doing his system, and what I did about 5 years ago, talked to him and say, hey, I have this idea that I want to explore, and I call it Cortes Combat Integrated System. So what it is all the systems that I've learned bridge the gap. I've been doing tactical training for a while with a tactical team in Puerto Rico. There's a tactical operators organization, ATOLA. So I was doing the senior master instructor for them, and I was learning, everything you do as an operator. Although I'm a civilian, so I'm learning that I have to go back in my next level course, But so and then I did a gun retention, gun disarms. I'm an instructor under Jeff Moldovan from TLM. People kind of look down on gun retention, gun disarm. It's like anything. If you're in a situation that you have an opportunity, I'd rather learn it and not use it than pretend it's never going to be useful.
Or not know it. Or yeah.
So I put in FCS as a foundation, Filipino Combatives as a foundation, Aiki Jiu-Jitsu as a foundation, TLM, the tactical, and Atola, plus the grappling that I was doing with Central Florida Central Florida MMA. But then I have to add the catch wrestling, which really turned me upside down. So I told Felix, said, I want to develop this and explore. I needed to grow. And he allowed me the room to do so. So it was really good. It's like, I'm still connected with him, still training stuff, but I wanted to explore and just see what I could do for my own research. I wanted to learn to struggle with something and learn to put things together in a different way, not because I was looking to be a grandmaster or anything like that, but because I'm a different body type. I was an athlete, but I'm not as athletic anymore. I have a hip replace. I needed to find what worked for me, and I found that his system, Tuhon Felix system, was fit perfect for what I needed because it's very combative in his approach. Then 2 years ago, I started training with John Potenza. You know who he is?
Catch, right?
Yeah, catch wrestling. He was a student. He is a student of Eric Paulson. He's a co-founder of Snake Pit USA with Joel Bain. He was a direct student of Bill Robinson, the catch wrestler Bill Robinson. And he's a coach under late Bill Robinson. And it was really interesting because I was doing some research on about BJJ, because I saw that in combat, I'm thinking different in weapons. So I'm thinking, and I don't mean this in a derogatory or disrespectful way to any BJJ people. Please understand that. I'm training every day on that, so clearly I like it. But the sport is a little different than the combat and the self-defense. So I'm thinking self-defense all the time, so I struggle because there's certain things that I'm thinking about that I cannot do, and I'm learning how to do the sport aspect of it. And certain positions, I do them because that's part of the curriculum.
Right.
That's something that I will do on the street.
Yeah, it's something you would never do. No, I totally agree with you. It's like, I'm not going to play guard. I don't want to play guard on the street.
Yeah. So, but I can learn how to control somebody if I have a weapon. So I'm trying to find the positive within it. If I'm in that scenario and I cannot get up, you know what I mean? So I began to do research and say, who gave the jiu-jitsu people a hard time in the MMA fights? Sakuraba. So I'm thinking, well, who taught Sakuraba? Bill Robinson. So who's teaching, who is Bill Robinson teaching in the United States? So, I saw a video with Eric Paulson and Josh Barnett at a seminar with Bill Robinson. I'm never going to get to those guys. I'm nobody in the grappling world. But then I began to look at Snake Pit USA. And then I came in my feed on my Facebook came on old school grappling on the John Potenza.
Okay.
And I actually picked up the phone and I called him. He answered. And that was when he was making the transition, leaving Snake Pit to create his own thing, to follow his own thing. And it was a perfect opportunity because the system is developing now under old school grappling. It's growing tremendously. He's an incredible teacher and a really nice guy. And I was able to go to Arizona, Prescott, and train with him directly and get a lot of one-on-one. So I've been blessed to have a lot of one-on-one with Ray, a lot of one-on-one with Tuhon Felix, a lot of one-on-one with my former teachers, and now I'm getting with him. So you expedite your learning.
Yeah, one-on-one, sure, yeah.
There's a guy I also want to give honor to. It's Amaguro Pambuan. He's in Florida, from Tucson. And he's always been a really nice man to me, a really good master, Amaguro. And I always believed you got to give honor and credit to those who helped you.
No, especially if they helped you in your journey and they were kind to you. No, I'm all for the credit. I totally agree. I mean, it's just a nice thing to do. You know what I mean? And it's a good thing for your students to see you do too, so they can replicate that, You
got to be honors due. There's a guy in Puerto Rico named Tiki Orlando Sanchez, right? This guy's been at the Jackson Wink camp. He's sparred with all those guys there, John, all those guys. He sent me a video recently, him sparring with Cowboy in New Mexico. And when I go to Puerto Rico, he does catch wrestling from the Bill Martinez line. He's a Colombian old school catch wrestler, and he does catch wrestling. He does black belt in jiu-jitsu. So when I go to Puerto Rico, he teaches me.
Okay.
So the reality is that we're in a journey of how we can learn. And Tiki and John Potenza, they are facilitating for me to apply the weapons. They actually encourage me because what's his name? John Potenza. He studied with Hockheim. So you'll be interested to talk to him because the stick fighting that he does, he told me it's all about fighting. It was not about forms or anything. So it's kind of cool.
Wow. So then, all right. So it sounds like, as far as Tuhon Felix, that he, I love teachers that do that. They kind of, promote self-discovery, or that you kind of bring something back to the table to grow the system and benefit everybody. I always found that like really refreshing to hear that some teachers do that. They allow their students to develop, create, something that's going to benefit everybody in the program. And it sounds like he's kind of giving that free reign to do so. Is that kind of what gave you sort of the incentive to investigate the knife grappling? Because what made me want to interview you was anytime I see anybody incorporate knife on the ground, I'm instantly interested, because for a few reasons. One, I don't think enough people do it. Two, if you look at the BJJ community with the sport and all that, without weapon, unfortunately, I'm not trying to sound like you were saying disparaging, but they're going to die, and they're going to die quick, because they're going to be looking for triangle chokes and arm bars. They're not going to be paying attention to And at the same time, I think it benefits FMA people to see that too and all that. So how is that? And again, the video I'm referencing, folks that are listening, he was doing some stuff on the ground, which I have tremendous respect for anybody who's developing that area. So what say you on that? Did he kind of give you the green light to do that?
Actually, not really. It's just that it's my own journey. It's my own journey. I remember a few years back, before my hip surgery, I was talking to, and I got him on Instagram. His name is Ken Smith. He's from California. I've never met him personally, but we talk all the time over Instagram. And we had a conversation about how we want to do. I was doing the tactical stuff, and he is one of those guys been doing. You will love to talk to him because he's been doing the stuff that I'm trying to do for the last 20 years. We started talking, and I said, man, I really want to investigate. Now that I'm doing MMA and grappling, I see certain things that I could do if I have my weapon. And I saw windows. What happened was, as I'm doing MMA or grappling, strictly those things. When I was doing MMA, even though I was not as fast, if I hit somebody the right way, I elbow somebody the right way, I underhook the right way, I get the balance, I headbutt the right way, I may be able to get away with stuff that I cannot do in jiu-jitsu. But then what I noticed was that regardless, if I have a weapon, the person asphyxiating on the weapon gives me the advantage, even if I'm not as good in their system. I may be able to level out the playing field. So the Dog Brothers was a huge influence too, because they've been doing this stuff for a long time, fighting and stick fighting. And I noticed they will always go to the ground. And I remember a video that I saw from oh man, I keep forgetting the name. So the main guy, forgot his name. I'm so sorry.
The Dog Brothers?
Denny. Yeah,
Mark Denny or Eric Nels?
Mark Denny.
Mark Denny.
Master Mark Denny. And he had a video in which he took jiu-jitsu for 6 months with the Machado brothers, and when he was fighting at the gathering, he killed everybody. I mean, he literally annihilated everybody. I'm thinking, okay.
It's so funny. You want to hear a funny story? I just had Arlen Sanford on, Arlen being the third, and Arlen mentioned that, like, Mark was off training privately, but Mark didn't tell them. So when they were training, Arlen would be like, Arlen, like, hey, why is he going on my back? And then all of a sudden, he being choked out, and he's like, what the hell is this?
So, as I'm watching all this stuff and I'm doing my research, I'm thinking, what can I do? And I found that a lot of what Felix was teaching me and the principles that I learned in my former system that I learned from was they taught me how to blend. I just needed to put in my time to earn my respect with the grapplers and learned. And then I remember one time there was one guy who says, I'm going to put you on a triangle, figure four, if you do catch. You do the triangle. And I told him, I said, I will never do that in the street. He goes, why? So I got my knife and I said, put me in the triangle, and I deployed and I start stabbing him in the perineum. If you don't know what the perineum is, between your scrotum and, your gland.
Old Sayok. That's old Sayok talk.
Yeah, you'll be dead pretty quick. So I told him, so what I started to do was, how can I learn to counter a little bit of the figure four or the triangle? And sometimes when I'm rolling and some guy has a really tight one, I try to, and I can't get out, I try to wait and I count. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, boom, and I tap. Then I go home and I try to make sure that my deployment is within that time.
Oh, that you had a tap. Oh, that's clever. That's clever.
You see, so what I do is, okay, if I'm in this position that I cannot get out because I'm not good at it, but I need to have control my breathing and see how long I got from a quality triangle, not just a white belt, but black belt guy who knows what they're doing. I want to go to the level, because if I can survive, a 4 count with a high level black belt, that's ample time for me to do my deployment.
Oh yeah. If you can survive 4 seconds before you get choked out or whatever, that's definitely a lot of time to. Yeah, no, that's clever. I like that.
So that's really my journey. It's like I'm getting bad spots, and I will never try an armbar on the street. I'd rather do a knee on the face. Knee in the
knee on the stomach. I just want to be on top, man. I want to be like top of the post on the head, or like you said, knee, man. Who wants to be in guard, man, on the street? I mean, obviously, if you get put there, you better know the waters. But I mean, still,
a really nice guy that I met recently in person was Master Bruce Chu from Modern Army.
I just had him and the son on.
Man, he was so nice. Him and his son, they came over to my promotion, and they were very, very nice. So, in the journey, when you look into what I'm trying to do, and it's nothing new, man. I'm getting the interest of the grapplers, because what I'm doing now, I'm not really teaching them straight up Kali, because they really don't want to learn Kali.
No.
But what I do, I teach them a basic entry to get to the clinch, right? I don't really use judo throws because of my hip. The catch wrestling throws are perfect for me because they don't put a lot of stress on my hip. But what I love about the catch wrestling throws, that are really dynamic and very, very nasty. So when you go down, it works perfect with the stick takedowns. So for me, it works. That's my research. I may be wrong, but for me today, it works better.
Yeah. I mean, I do like, it's funny because I prefer the wrestling takedowns too. I just, I like being under over. I like the single, double leg variations, body locks. I mean, I'm with you on that. But I tell you though, you get a good grappler and they can close the distance. They might not need to know stick fighting. Man, if they can come under a rooftop and they can get inside you, I don't care how good you are in the open waters, stick fighting, man. They get you down, man.
And I think, and by the way, that's exactly why I want to learn to be the best that I can be. I think for me, catch is my game. Heavy pressure, moving around, catch.
Neck cranks.
Neck cranks and all that stuff is
nasty stuff, man.
Yeah, I love that. And in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's not part of the etiquette when you roll, but you got to learn. I think each art has beautiful things that have a lot to offer. Sadly, we are in a state of society that we have to minimize somebody else to be heard, and I think that's wrong. I believe that the Filipino, look, let me tell you what, in my opinion, what the Filipinos have brought to the table that is incredibly valuable. The fact that the Filipino martial arts have suffered in their culture, so many cultures trying to conquer them, and they had to survive by adapting. When the Spaniards came in, they needed to learn. When the Americans came in, they needed to learn. I mean, the influence that the Filipino martial arts has had, and now we have a lot of these masters, and they're no longer around. But the problem is that we're not living in the same culture as we did 100, 200 years ago.
No, as far as, you're right.
But the training methods are still the same. So what I'm trying to do is I'm living in the 21st century without minimizing the root of the Filipino principles, because they brought a lot to the table. But MMA changed the whole scope of martial arts.
Agreed. Yeah.
So I take the best of the teaching method and try to plug in the areas that I know it could work for me. And what I'm trying to develop is going to be quite simple. I'm not going to come up with the crazy entries, and we want to do 1 or 2 or 3 tops entries that we can do.
I think they're going to come out like the more you add, it gets lost in translation. And I agree, man. Have like 2 or 3 things that you can give your students or they can get. Agreed.
There is a teacher in Avondale, Florida. Redbeard. It's called Redbeard. I'm going blank with names today, man. Ben. His name is Ben, Professor Ben, and he has a system. His helmet is probably one of the best helmets around for what we're trying to do. And he has a system, and he really, really opened my understanding to combat. He also teaches gun and, and all that stuff. And one day in the class, I think the video that you saw, I was just teaching the class, and I said, okay, guys, let me show you this with a weapon. And then the people, they change. It's really interesting. You grapple, no one's afraid. You bring a regular knife that is not even a real knife.
Yeah.
And people, all of a sudden, they're not thinking anymore. And I remember when Tuhon Felix and I were doing something for his website. He goes, okay, now we're going to do the template, but with live blade. So we were doing the template that he was teaching me with a live blade. I mean, that was not just dull. There was a live blade. And we were going at the pace that we always go with the live blade. It really made me realize how important the footwork is, angles, control, and know when to tap and when not to tap, when to, to pass and not to pass. And I'm thinking, if we can just take those principles to the ground and use some of the core principles of jiu-jitsu that works, the grips, weapons grips, not jiu-jitsu grips, and use the pressure of catch wrestling and the devastation of the neck cranks and control and all the rubbing induced pain that they use to create a reaction, then even if I don't have a weapon, I may be able to get away with it eventually.
Yeah. No. I again, one of the things I brought you on because I saw that. So I think what I've seen thus far, what you're doing, I think is great stuff. So, what's what's the future plans for yourself and your system or the system that you're developing?
Right now, I'm a pastor full time. That's really my passion. It's kind of weird, right? So
Yeah, that's a yin and yang, huh?
I'm a pastor. That's my passion. That's my life. I travel all over the world. I've been to 23 countries. I have a TV station that I run. That I have teachers there. I've developed, um, pursuing my doctorate in biblical history and biblical theology. This is more or less what I'm trying to develop for me and leave it for my son as a legacy. I used to
Awesome.
do seminars. I wanted to do seminars, but the problem if I start doing seminars now, it will take away from my family time, and I don't want to do that. I'm already training enough as it is, you know. But what I'm doing, I do want to share with as many people as I can to hopefully bridge a gap. It's not the only way. It's not the best way. It's just my
Yeah.
interpretation of where I am today. And I'm hoping some of you may be encouraged to try it. I mean, listen, this is what I want, what I've learned. That when you're dealing with weapons, it's not about winning. It's about survival.
Home.
So if I'm training with my guys and one of the guys that may not be as good of a grappler, but he gets my weapon on or he stabs me with it, I'm grateful in a way that he did it in practice. It didn't happen to me in the street.
Yeah. No,
So
100%.
the whole notion that the teacher has to be the best and the only one in the class and no one else can challenge it, that has to be thrown out the window in this case, because if we go into investigate and research, I have to allow myself to be vulnerable and to understand that I also need to learn. And I think that's something that for master level people, they are afraid of trying new things because they don't want to seem like they don't know. And that's the one thing that as a Bible teacher,
I agree.
you see it all the time.
No, I agree on that. They don't want to be showed up or they don't want to be exposed that they never covered this in their journey, and that's why I tell you I'm the forever student, man. Like I don't care. Like I don't care if I get exposed. Like if I'm gonna get something out of it, I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna better myself. To me, it's about just being the best version of me, and I embrace failures. I don't know. I mean, how do you get success?
I'm with you, man. My wife taught me something that was very meaningful. A few years back, she said, hopefully I phrased it the right way, so she won't tell me I did it wrong. But
you'll hear about it later.
Yeah, but she said, ego is important. We all have it. The difference is, are we going to master our ego, or the ego is going to master us?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it really resonated with me to the point that I'm thinking, okay, so I'm pretty good with a knife with a stick, but I'm learning on the ground.
Yeah.
So am I going to let my ego dictate, oh, I'm already good with weapons, so I don't have to go to the ground?
Yeah, I don't need to go to parts of ground.
Right. Or I say, let me go to the ground and learn, hope that I never have to use it. But if I get there, I know what I'm doing. So you have to be open. And today in the martial arts, especially now with all the stuff going on with Mac Dojo and, he's exposing everybody. It's like, oh, Lord, I got to make sure I'm on point, man. When I put out a video, I make sure that I do it the right way.
I know, because there's a line just waiting to freaking pounce on you, man. I'm telling you, I know. They're just waiting to find some fault. Find something that's wrong with it so they could just and I tell you, in FMA discussion, we don't allow that. If somebody posts a video and people bash it, we remove their comments, and depending on what they're saying, we actually remove them. Because we all been there, man. We posted things that maybe wasn't the best showing, maybe, or whatever, man. It's a learning curve. And I know, I just wish people be more comfortable to do that, but I get what you're saying. It's because people are going to be, man, they're right there.
I think I know why, though. I think I know why.
Go ahead.
If your only identity is your rank and you've never done anything else, let me give you an example. Let's say that you are a master of martial arts, but yet you're a lousy husband and you're a terrible father. All you have is your students that look at you thinking that you are the best thing in the world, the last Pepsi in the wilderness, And all of a sudden now they look at you as a person and they see how terrible you are. And then you don't want to be exposed more than you are, so you don't want to try new things. So you're going to hold your fort as long as you want.
Yeah.
You know, but when you make a martial arts only an extension of your life, not your identity, and you're on a journey, then it's easier.
Yeah, not your identity. I like that. What was it here? What was the quote from your wife again? That's a great one.
Did I say it right?
Don't let the ego master. Don't let the ego master you.
Right. Don't let your ego master you. Master your ego, because we all need the ego.
Yeah.
You gotta make a shirt for that one.
Wow. That's a good one, man. You should spread that around.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, t-shirts made. Seriously.
I may have to do that. It's pretty good. It's like
I think so.
my gym, but leave the ego outside the door, you know.
I'm telling you. We all hear that. Leave the ego outside the door. But I think that's more to the point. Your wife's quote, don't let it master your ego. Don't let it master you. I like that. Wow.
To be honest with you, it's probably one of the best advice I've gotten, because it really made me realize. It made me realize that I could go to a jiu-jitsu class, get beat up, and I still win.
Yeah, you're right, because you're learning, and you went home better than maybe perhaps the week before or whatever. You know what I mean? A better version of yourself.
I remember rolling with a black belt, right, and in sport jiu-jitsu, and the guy literally played with me. So he started teaching me, hey, try this, try that, try this, try that. I go back and work on it, and then I come back and roll with him. He only got me once, but it was based on, and then I caught on what he was doing. He closed the space, and then he set it up in three different movements. I responded correctly to the first one, then went to the third one. He got me, and I told him, and that was really cool. You actually set it up in 3 bursts. In other words, he didn't go right for it. He set it up. Right. So for me, he tapped. I mean, I tapped, but I really won because I understood his concept that he's using.
Right. You actually saw what was coming, and no, that's fantastic. Yeah.
I didn't lose. I got the respect of a black belt. He lets me roll with him. I'm running. So why can't we do that in life? I mean, that's why I have more respect for Tuhon Felix, because he says, hey, man, I like what you're doing. He allowed me to, continue to develop it in his system, and hopefully we can do something worthy of maybe other people trying out.
Wow, I think it sounds like it's going to happen. I mean, based on what you're doing. So with your mission work and all that, I mean, that's obviously keeping you pretty busy. I mean, is your goal are you teaching students now, or is it kind of a small group? Or
I have a small group because I'm starting. What I'm doing, in order for them to learn how to use the stick on the ground, I need to teach them the catch wrestling curriculum. So what we do is we do an hour-and-a-half class. The first hour is all mobility drills.
Okay.
Escape drills, because we have to escape. Mobility drills, techniques that are right to the point. And then what we do, we use the stick in other classes with a basic entry to the clinch, to the takedown, to the submission.
Okay.
And then what we're going to start doing soon is we're going to start rolling without the stick. And in the middle of the roll, we throw a knife or a stick.
Yeah, we throw it in. Yeah, that's what we do. Yeah, it's good. And all of a sudden, it's like mad dash for the weapon.
but what happens is if I teach them everything at the same time, they're not going to learn the basics well. So I figured, let me show them how to sit out, because I'm learning how to sit out. Let me show them how to do this from catch wrestling, and John Potenza comes over and teaches us. And if we learn pressure, top pressure, because in the grappling with a stick, if you control the forearm instead of the underhook, this is one of the examples. You get the far underhook when you're on side control, right?
Yeah.
It's perfect in jiu-jitsu, but in weapons training, you're just giving me a free arm.
No, I know. Yeah, I know. That's interesting. Yeah. If you go for that deep underhook. Yeah.
So I caught on to little things like that. I'm thinking, okay, so let me control the forearm and control it the right way so he doesn't try to deploy. And I did a seminar. I was in Mexico visiting some family, and I was doing ministry over there. And I went to a jiu-jitsu school, and the guy saw my videos on Instagram. He goes, man, I didn't know you did, some martial arts. So he let me do a mini seminar to his class, which is
Oh, excellent.
tough. So all I did was, okay, we go to the double wrist lock,
Yeah.
what they call the kimura, right? The wrist lock. And normally you do it this way in jiu-jitsu, but let me put a knife in my hand, see how it works. So I taught them the grips, catch wrestling, gripping with weapons that we learned, gripping, and also now apply it. And I told them all it takes is a little bit of a change, of an adjustment, without changing the technique. So this is the thing that I'm trying to do. Why am I going to remove them from the grappling? Why not adapting the principles of Kali that we've run into?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, all right, we're coming in. I mean, this has been awesome so far.
I'm glad you're doing it.
Yeah. Good. What do you, with respect to our community, what changes would you like to see?
And what you want me? Sorry, I missed the first part.
For respects to the FMA community, what changes would you like to see? They could be anything,
Man, open.
Where do you start, huh? See.
This whole thing that we're a tribe and we're family. We if we really a family, we're going to work together every aspect of the whole family. Because FMA is FMA, Filipino martial arts. All the jiu-jitsu. Look, I travel to all over the place. I've been to, New Zealand, Australia, Chile, Paraguay, Argentina, and I train everyone jiu-jitsu. They all treat me nice. I've never been treated terrible anywhere. I've been Mexico, Puerto Rico, everywhere I go, right? Israel, but I can't say the same thing for an FMA school. They see you come in and they like, oh, who you train with? Well, they may not like my teacher, so that's not true everywhere you go. Yeah. But we have to find a way to work in a unit, because if you do eskrima, cerrada eskrima, if you do FCS, if you do Filipino combatives, we're still representing the Filipino martial arts. And I think that I want to learn from you. Even if I don't do it as good as you, that doesn't mean that I'm not doing my style the right way. But I want to learn what you do. And let me appreciate what you have to offer without minimizing each other. It seems like we are now pressure testing everything to the point that, that don't work. Well, how do you know? It's not the system, it's a participant.
That's what really bugs me, is when you got guys like I see it on the FMA discussion, the group there, and they'll say, well, it'll work. Well, and sometimes I don't do it because I have to lead by example, being the administrator. Yeah. But I'm so tempted at times to go like, well, where's your videos? Like, where are your videos? You know what I mean? You're critiquing this man's stuff, but where are your videos? And you know what I mean? That really just bothers me when they jump on like that, but yet they got nothing to substantiate anything they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, and I might just do it one day. I might go on there in a bad mood and see someone but I try to lead by example, but that really bothers me.
What people don't realize is that when we do a video, we're literally exposing ourselves.
Absolutely.
Every time I do a video, when I say, okay, let's record this, is because I feel in my mind that I'm showing something that I'm going to gain the respect maybe of a grappler or maybe of a Kali guy applying it differently. I'm not saying it's the only way or the best way. It's only my interpretation of that move. And it's interesting that I get more response from BJJ guys than I do from FMA guys. And yet
I'm not surprised.
I'm trying to represent you guys amongst the most popular sport in the world, jiu-jitsu, and I'm trying to use the FMA to bridge that gap for them to appreciate us. I don't get hardly any feedback from them.
I know. I know exactly what you're saying. It's a tough community. It could be a cruel community and a tough community. I will say this: since COVID, I have definitely seen some positive changes of more different styles of interacting through the Zoom lessons. I've definitely seen some different styles come together. I guess it'll just be interesting to see when COVID does leave us, hopefully eventually, does that continue? What I mean? Continue, because the facade's there. And I don't care what people think about this, because it's true. Well, there is some people that generally like harmony, but there's some that say it's a facade. It's a facade.
my ultimate goal is, and I want to thank you for having me, by the way. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah.
And my ultimate goal is that the Filipino martial arts will see that the good instruction that I got from the teachers that I had, that I still learn from, that I'm trying to be an influence and be a bridge to the most popular sport in the world today, which is BJJ, to let them know, hey guys, there's a little bit more to what you're learning. Not that what you're doing is bad. It's just that you need to consider this. And these are the guys that have been proven through generations that really have that tool that you need out there in the street and with a weapon. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to get cut. That doesn't mean that we're going to win. It means that we have a good opportunity to know what we're doing. And what I want to be recognized for maybe is that I'm doing my best to bridge the gap for them to see, for the BJJ guys to see, wow, the Filipino martial arts, they can bring something to the table. They can help us in something.
Yeah, especially
because a lot of Filipino martial artists don't want to go into the grappling world, or they don't want to mix it. You know, they want to separate it. And what do we have to lose? Why don't we just play with it and examine? Isn't that what the Filipinos did for years? They started playing with stuff, and
right when they were at war. Yeah, I know. I think it's like what you kind of touched on before, just that reluctancy to do anything new or be showed up, or I just, I mean, I think, whereas I'm like, man, that's, I want to be exposed to everything and anything for that matter, especially if it's going to make a better version of me. You know what I mean?
For sure. I'd rather fail trying something to bring positive input in this world than be in my corner pretending to be the best in the world.
I know, and then you haven't you haven't really done anything outside your corner. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, here, check GM Dan said it best here. GM Dan, I think I'm gonna have to take your advice. Why don't you put up a video and show me how to do it? Hey, if I put it like that, then maybe I won't be. It's good advice, GM.
Yeah, it's true, brother.
Man, but well, this has been absolutely wonderful. I appreciate you coming on and doing this. I tell you what, if you want, reach out to Tuhon Felix. I'll bring you both on.
Oh, that'll be great. I'll talk to him definitely. He'll love to. He'll love it.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, just realistically speaking, as far as scheduling is concerned, I know June is kind of in half of it, but I know in July, I think there's all that. But yeah, talk to him. If you both want to come on, I'll bring you both on. Sure.
That'll be great. Yeah, July will be perfect because in June I will not be available. But
yeah, June's pretty much booked. But yeah,
appreciate what you're doing, man. Thank you for exposing and going out there and bringing people on. I've met through your program people that I didn't even know existed in the FMA. So it's kind of cool to make connections like that. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, I appreciate it because I'm meeting people too I didn't know existed. By having him on here and like GM Dan. What a great guy. I kind of met him through here, had him on. You know what I mean? He donated to the raffle. Richard Packman met him. Julius. I mean, yeah. So it's been an enjoyable ride so far. It really has.
Great.
You know what I mean?
Great.
But all right, sir, we're gonna let you get back to your vacation, your wife, and tell her that's a great quote. She's gonna have T-shirts made, man. You gotta follow up on that.
I'll tell her because she's the best of me. I'll tell you.
That's a great quote. You guys gotta have T-shirts made. I'm telling you.
Get a T-shirt. Pretty good. Thank you so much, and anything I could do to help in any way. And then I want to thank you guys for considering my videos. And if you don't like it, don't say anything. If you like it, say it like.
No, and be here and don't share them on FMA discussion. No, absolutely, absolutely.
Sure.
And talk to Tuhon and let me know.
I will do that. And by the way, before I go, I want to make sure I give props to your teacher, man, Mr.
Richardson.
Yeah, man, he was so kind to make a statement in my video. He said, "Hey, can I make a suggestion?" Really? Of course you can.
Yeah.
He sent me a message, and the funny thing is, after we were rolled that night, I even told the guys, so I moved the wrong way. I went towards the feet instead of the head, and then the guy on the bottom says, but I would never try to get the half guard from there because I'm thinking about you grabbing my weapon. So you may get away with the wrong things if you have a weapon involved, but I was so kind of your teacher to like help me. That was good.
I tell you, like, this is why I'm with him. He's unbelievable. He's
okay,
unbelievable.
Man. I look forward to meeting.
Tuhon, Richard Packman, what's the IG account? I would love to follow.
Instagram is Tuhon_Rico Cortes. I'm going to write it down. Can I write it down here?
You sure can. You can put it in the comment section. Sure.
Yeah,
or I can if you can't. I can do it.
Yeah. Tuhon_Rico Cortes. I got all of my videos there.
Tuhon_
Rico Cortes with an S. Rico Cortes with an S.
Gotcha. I'll put it.
And please follow me on Instagram. I put all my videos there, and the intent is to share what I'm learning and to study it. Any suggestions? Hey, man, send me a message. I'll put it in.
All right. So you take care of yourself.
Thank you. You too. Thanks to everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Good one. Just good knowing. Doubleheader today. Julius is coming on at, I think, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I think. I hope. Anyhow, that'll be episode 149. He's got some folks over in the Philippines, so you might want to check that out. And tomorrow night, there is episode 150, theme episode on pre-violence, the mindset and the psychology needed to to help you with violence and all that. So that's going to be tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And there'll be 3 guests. So that should be pretty interesting. Guru Tom Pena, Anton St. James, and Lori. So that should be a good one. All right, folks. Thank you those who tuned in. If you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe to FMA Discussion on YouTube. Take care and have a good night.